Ready?
Yeah.
Welcome in to Calling the Shots, presented by Blue Shark Vodka, the smoothest vodka in the world. This is Calling the Shots. I'm your host, Ross Martin of Inside Carolina, joined as always by Jeff Schoettmer, former UNC linebacker, former UNC defensive analyst and graduate assistant. What's up, Jeff?
What's up, Ross? What's going on? Happy Monday.
Yeah, man, back at it. Feels a little bit better after a nice, comfortable 41-10 win by the Tar Heels over Virginia Tech. A get back win. UNC moves to 4-1 on the season and 1-0 in the Coastal, 1-0 in the ACC, which has to feel good, especially coming off a really tough week, kind of an embarrassing look in the mirror game versus Notre Dame. Jeff, you watched the game. We've talked about it. You've watched it twice, watched the tape. What are some of your initial takeaways? I know you have 3 or 4 here to kind of get into it about UNC's win over Virginia Tech in Keene Stadium.
Yeah, the first thing is we got a bounce back win. You know, Virginia Tech isn't very talented this year, but we can't control who's on our schedule. We just have to win the games that are on our schedule. And the way we took care of business was exactly how we were supposed to play. You know, when a team isn't very talented, you're supposed to dominate in all 3 phases, and we did that. You know, we won by 31 points. You know, the spread was 9.5, so we, tripled that. And we kind of got back on the tracks defensive wise. You know, this was a game where Virginia Tech wasn't skilled on offense, but we held them to under 300 yards and 10 points. So that's exactly what we were supposed to do.
If you're a coaching staff, what do you tell your players, especially on defense, when you beat a team like that and you play really well and hold them to 10 points and shut them out in the second half? Like, what are you telling the defensive players about that performance, knowing that Virginia Tech's offense is not really good and probably finish really, really low in the ACC and in the nation?
You guys handled business. That's what you were supposed to do. Confidence in sports is a crazy thing. And this was a game for our players to build confidence. You know, we didn't run any new scheme. We were running the same coverage as we've been running. So it was a way for our defensive staff to be like, look, here's the same calls we've run the whole season, and here's how you guys executed them. You guys were physical. You guys got off blocks. You ran to the ball well. You took great pursuit angles. So just harp on all the things we did well. We still missed a few tackles. The surface was slick. I will say we had a couple, times we slipped. One in particular, storm duck on the first drive. That was one of the explosive plays we gave up. They run a little glance concept. We're in one high, and storm duck, that's his man, and he slips on his break, and it happens. But here's the thing: the post safety should knock that down for 12 yards instead of letting it go for 30. So just little things like that, but. I was overall pleased with the defense performance. When I was there, Chizik's number one importance for a defense, he said the most important stat was scoring defense. He said throw all the other stats out the window, whether it's third down conversion, fourth down, red zone, it doesn't matter. It's the number of points we allow. And if we allow 10 points, that's I don't care who we play in college football, that's a good number.
Yeah, and Chizik's big thing is also limiting explosive plays. And Virginia Tech only had 2 explosive plays in the whole game. It was a 25-yard run, I believe you talked about already, and then a 34-yard passing play, Wells to Caleb Smith. So that's impressive too. I mean, it was a great performance by the defense. Want to dive a little bit more into the defense. What did you see them? You mentioned some things. What are some things they did really well in the game that stood out to you? Maybe as just an improvement from Notre Dame that stuck out. They can kind of build on. I think one thing that Mac Brown and G6 said is having them see them do the right things, and then it show and be productive on the field. I wonder what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'll talk about the cornerback play because we've been, a little negative on them in prior episodes. And so what I saw from the first 2 series was a mixture of press man and off coverage. So the cornerbacks, and obviously I think they have some freedom to do what they prefer. Some corners do like to be pressed up and some do like to play off, just depending on the situation as well. But we saw a mixture of that, and that was good to see. You saw Grimes had a couple breakups. The good thing about the cornerbacks, if you don't really notice them all day, then they're doing a good job. When you start to notice them, because they're getting beat vertical or they're having, pass interference calls, then that's not good. But I think we just got back to fundamentals and simplicity, right? In terms of we ran to the ball, we tackled better, we played with leverage. One play in particular that stood out to me was it was in the first quarter. Virginia Tech has a run play, and they kind of bounce it outside to the field, and it's Noah Taylor's on that side, and he's just stringing along the block. He defeats a block and makes the ball go east and west. And when he does that, he allows our linebackers to hunt because they can really run, and he allows our safeties to hunt from top down. So, that they took great angles to the ball, and I think we tackled it for a -3. So, that play alone just showed me, we're playing physical, we're playing with leverage, and we're tracking the ball well. So that was a good thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, and this was a huge, like you said, momentum, confidence, get a little calm down, like reset, and then get the win, play a lot of players, and on defense, just see some things work, see some blitzes work, make good tackles, 99 yards rushing defense. I mean, that's excellent. The players only meeting, which happened on Sunday after Notre Dame game, they talked about that all week. Obviously, it was a big topic conversation after the game as well by Kamen Rucker and Cedric Gray. What's your experience with that? It could be various forms, I think, that players can meet and decide. Like, when you heard that, what'd you think about, and then how that had effect on how they played during the week and during the game?
I think you hear Mac Brown talk about it all the time, and the best teams are player-led teams, not coach-led. And, it's good to see them, come together, but I don't think it had that big of an impact. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
In the meeting rooms all the time, you can get, very rah-rah and emotional and stuff, but you still have to go translate it to the field. And I don't think that player-led meeting on Monday had a huge impact on the play Saturday. I think practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and their preparation and then their actual execution on Saturday was the reason they were successful. I'm not a big believer in all that hype that leads up to emotional play leads up to great play on Saturday. I believe it's the consistent work you put in throughout the week and the preparation in the film room and your execution on game day. So I'm glad. Look, I hope we come back and look at the end of the year and we're playing the ACC championship and we can look back to our defense and be like, that player-led meeting, that was the turning point of our season. So.
Yeah, I think it's something where it definitely doesn't hurt, and it's good to I think it's good in any sort of situation. Get your feelings out, talk about it, open those lines of communication, make sure everybody's kind of heard, and then it kind of some leaders can reveal themselves. I think Cedric Gray is emerging as a leader, Kamen Rucker is emerging as a leader, Ray Vahasek. I think it's good when people can communicate, express how they feel, and then if it can be beneficial through the week in practice, and I think it had a little bit of impact in the game as well. Also, I think just a game like this takes the heat off the defense, whether or not you're reading social media, whether or not you're on Twitter or Instagram, seeing all the comments. I think just 10 points, shut out in the second half, getting good interception, led to points. Like, it just takes the heat off, lets them reset. They're not as weary of the outside world, and I think it allows them to focus a little better. Okay, fourth down success. I think that was your kind of third point off the top. We talked about beating Virginia Tech, the defense, and I think fourth down success has been a relatively new thing with Mac Brown, Phil Longo. I'm not sure how much they went for it the last 3 years, but this year, especially against Virginia Tech, 3 for 3 on fourth down, and it's a weapon, especially when you have a quarterback like Drake May.
Yeah, fourth down success is huge. I think we're top 5 in the country in the amount of times we've gone for it on fourth down, and our success rate is in the top 5, I think, in the country. Obviously, versus Virginia Tech, we go 3 for 3, with the first one being in the red zone when we score, we throw a touchdown to Kamari Morales. A defense's goal when an offense gets to the red zone is to hold them to a field goal, because those points add up, right? It's simple math. We can all do it. Especially when they're down inside the 5-yard line. To be able to hold a team to a field goal instead of a touchdown is huge. So us being able to go for it on fourth down in the red zone, especially, in the goal line area is big. The second one was, it was the second drive of the game, and it's 4th and 7, just beyond the 50-yard line. That's a limbo situation for all coaches, right? Do we punt it and do we pin them down, or do we let Drake May be able to deliver a strike to somebody? He finds Josh Downs on a kind of throw up play, 4th and 7, but momentum is a crazy thing in the game. We get that first down and then we go down and score the next, the few plays after that. So instead of, either punting the ball away back to their offense or, not converting that 4th down, we ultimately convert that 4th down and we go down there and score and put points on the board. So that's just a huge momentum swing in the game because we're able to do that.
Yeah, and what's the benefit of having Drake May as your quarterback when you're going for 4th down? Obviously, that's a big role of it because of how mobile he is and his ability to pass the ball.
The first thing you said it is his mobility. There's nothing more demoralizing to a defense than, say it's 3rd and 9 or 4th and 9, and you're playing pass coverage. You're rushing 4 and you're dropping 7, and you're matching up all the routes, and the routes are completely matched up. There's nowhere to go to the ball, and Drake May eludes one defender and scrambles for 11. There is nothing more demoralizing. I would rather a team run it down my throat than us play great coverage and the quarterback somehow navigates and escapes for 11. I'm telling you, it hurts the defensive coordinator. It hurts the players on the field because, he's thinking in the back of his head, okay, I can't call that coverage next time because he's more athletic than our defensive lineman, and we can't get home with 4. So just his ability to run and have mobility and make plays with his legs is so crucial.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much confidence right now in the UNC offense, and I wrote about it this week, and Matt kind of talked about it a lot after the game on Saturday. I mean, he's going to go for it on 4th down, whether, it's either on the inside the 50 and it's, 4th and 2, 4th and 1, he's going to go for it. On the goal line, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, he's going to go for it. He has confidence in Drake May. Field goals don't do much anymore. You need 7 points to win, especially against good teams. You saw them go for it against Notre Dame a couple times as well. He'd much rather have 7. If he doesn't get 4th down, at least you're pinning the other team's offense pretty deep in their territory there. And then, Phil Longo likes as well. I think it really affects play calling. I know your thoughts on this, but if this was a big thing from this week. If you have, after 1st down, if you have 4 downs, it affects your play call on 2nd down. It definitely affects your play calling and what Drake does on 3rd down. Get half of it. If it's 3rd and 8, maybe get 4 or 5 yards. You don't need the 7 or 8, 9-yard play, and then 4th down, get the rest. Your thoughts on just how it affects play calling? Anything different other than that from an offensive standpoint?
I'll speak from a defensive perspective because I think it's tougher in that sense. Say it's 3rd and 6, right? A traditional offense on 3rd and 6, they're not going to run the ball, right? So there's a breaking point when a defensive coordinator is studying the offense and he says, okay, if they get to 3rd and 4 or more, 90% of the time they're throwing the ball. So your calls as a defensive coordinator are correlated to, pass defense, or if you're going to pressure them, whatever it's going to be. But so say you get an offense that's 3rd and 6. So you're thinking, okay, quick game, maybe slants or outs or something quick to get, the 5 or 6 yards you need. Well, in our case, we can still run the ball in 3rd and 6 because if we know we're going to go for it on 4th and 2 every time, say we run the ball and get half back, then it's still 4th and 2, 4th and 3. So the defensive coordinator he's kind of handcuffed. He doesn't really know what's going to happen because it's kind of breaking the stereotype of what they normally do in that situation. So it puts way more pressure on the defensive coordinator and what he's going to call than it does on the offense.
Great points there. All right, that's our initial takeaways off the top there. Taking care of business, UNC's growth, step forward on defense, and then 4th down success, which is becoming a pretty big deal for UNC's offense. All right, I want to talk to you about UNC's run game, rushing attack, run game, however you want to phrase it there. Pull this up here, against Virginia Tech, UNC ran the ball 32 times. This includes 13 attempts by Drake May for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both those touchdowns were by Drake. You did some crunching the numbers. I just think UNC wasn't very efficient. I know entering the game, and based on the press conference from last Monday, Phil Longo and Mac Brown wanted to pare down the rotation, which means obviously going with 1 or 2 guys instead of 3 or 4 guys at running back. So let's get your initial thoughts on UNC's run game. We'll dive into personnel, scheme, run blocking, all that good stuff. Wherever you want to start, Jeff.
Yeah, our best run right now is get 4 wide, have the receivers run down the field, Drake scramble and get 11 yards. That's our best run game right now. Just the eye test of looking at it, we're not getting much push on first and second down designed runs. There's a couple times where we'll pop a long run, and I think it kind of skews our numbers. Early on, we had some success with that flip play where Drake would kind of mesh like he's going to run inside zone, and then kind of flip it out to Caleb, and we got on the perimeter with some good blocking. Mm-hmm. That was, I think, the first time we kind of saw that this season, and that was a successful play for us. But when our standard just inside zone, which is the basic run in college football, our offensive line and tight ends aren't really creating space, and they aren't creating push for our running backs to find and navigate and hit a hole. A lot of times, defenses will slant and move on us, and either our center guard combo or our guard tackle combo will let the defensive line slip through, whether it's miscommunication or just lack of physicality, and we're getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage, or they're creating negative plays versus.
Can you explain a basic inside zone run and what happens with the offensive line and what the running back's supposed to do?
Yeah, so say there's 4 down defensive linemen, because that's the standard front in college football. So we have 5 offensive linemen and usually a tight end in there when we're running the game. So there's 3 combo blocks, whether it's the center guard blocking the nose, the guard tackle blocking the defensive end. They're all kind of just stepping on their tracks, and they're just zoning one way. No one's pulling. There's no gap scheme involved. It's just everyone kind of on their track, the offensive lineman and the tight end just on their track, just at an angle to create holes for our running back. It's just a very simple play.
You're kind of moving. You're just moving the defensive line kind of up and out to create holes, and then the running back has a hole and a track to go.
Correct. Yeah, and we're just not successful in that right now. Like you said, I pulled some numbers, and the numbers I found were. So take Drake's numbers out of the game, take his rushes out. When we hand the ball to the running back, we had 18 carries for 84 yards. Okay, and 3 of those carries went for 64 yards. One of them was with a 30-yarder from Hampton, a long one from Caleb, and then DJ I think had a decent game. So that leaves us 15 rushes for 20 yards. That is not great numbers at all. It's very inefficient. It's 1.1, 1.2 yards per carry when we're just, handing the ball to our running backs and saying, go for it. So that's something we got to get cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, entering the season, you would think running back was going to be a strength of this offense with Hampton, with George Pettaway, Caleb Hood, DJ Jones. And you look at the stats from Virginia Tech, and Drake May is the leading rusher with 73 yards. That's including sacks if there were any. So what do you think is what's kind of the remedy here? What needs to happen for UNC to improve their rushing attack?
In my opinion, I think we are better from an offensive line perspective and from the running back perspective when we run gap scheme plays. And
Explain that.
When I mean gap scheme, I mean that's when you see an offensive lineman. It's usually down blocking from one side of the offensive line, and the other side of the offensive line is getting up and pulling around to the other side. If you know football, power and counter are called gap scheme plays, where you're actually having an offensive lineman remove himself from one side of the field, and he's going to the other side to either kick out a defensive end, a linebacker, or whatever. And in my opinion, I think we're not as physical on the offensive line, but we're decently athletic. So we have good movement skills, and that benefits us in gap scheme plays because we're cover up blockers, meaning we can get up and pull around and just put a body on a body with the defender and let the running back kind of navigate off that. I don't think we're as big and as physical and as strong in the zone schemes where we're actually removing defenders with brute force, where we're actually pushing guys out of the way to create holes. So I think we're better when we cover up, the defensive line and give the running back space to navigate and use his athletic ability.
What's a counter? What would be a counter play? If
Counter
power is when you bring a pulling guard.
Power is when the guard pulls around. Counter is either when the guard tackle on one side pulls around, or it's the guard and the tight end pull around. So it's kind of creating an illusion where you think they're going one way, and then you got two guys pulling around to the other side of the formation. So it's a misdirection play in a sense.
So the running back goes the opposite way of the pulling.
No, he's going with the pullers.
Okay. Yeah. Makes more sense. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about here, I want to get to tight ends. But first, before we do that, we're going to talk about Blue Shark Vodka, the smoothest vodka in the world, made from Carolina sweet heirloom corn out of Wrightsville, North Carolina. I want to shout out Connor Barth and the people over at Blue Shark Vodka. Appreciate them for their support. If you're tailgating, getting ready for a trip, a party, a guy's trip, Blue Shark Vodka available in all 100 counties. A couple cities in South Carolina, San Diego, Miami. It's spreading across the country. Blue Shark Vodka, the smoothest vodka in the world. Bloody Marys. As we get into more of the fall football tailgating times, Blue Shark Vodka, the smoothest vodka in the world. Check them out. Shout us out. Tell them Inside Carolina sent you. We appreciate Blue Shark Vodka for sponsoring Calling the Shots, featuring Jeff Schoettmer. All right, tight ends, Jeff. Man, I thought they're spectacular. I think they're a huge weapon. You've got three guys. They all made big plays against Virginia Tech. Let's see here as we look at the receiving stats. Bryson Nesbitt, 4 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown in the second half, a long of 35. Kamari Morales had the first touchdown, 3 catches, 29 yards, including that 25-yard long. And then John Copenhagen had 2 catches, 35 yards, and a long of 29. They're making big plays. They're going across the middle. They're big targets. They help out in the run game, and they're scoring as well. So I know you've talked about before. I don't know if you saw anything different from how Phil Longo uses them. It's cool to see them become a major part of the offense after 3 years where it was Garrett Walston was the main guy, and Kamari Morales last year. They haven't been used very much, so it's a cool wrinkle in Longo's offense, and the fact that he has talented guys and he's used them. It's great to see.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to John Lilly. I worked with him for 2 years, and I think he's the best coach on staff. Just consistency, his teaching ability, his player development. He's awesome. Awesome guy, and he's done a hell of a job with that room. Look, when you have over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns of production from 3 different players at tight ends, especially in a Phil Longo offense, it's pretty remarkable. And I want to give Coach Longo credit because he's adapting his offense to his personnel. We're using more 12 personnel, and we talked about this in prior episodes. We're using 13 personnel. We're using 11 personnel, and we're also using 11 personnel with Bryson Nesbitt, who's a hybrid tight end receiver. We'll flex him out, and we'll be in 11 personnel, and he's a big receiver. And his ability to play in the slot and run routes over the ball, a huge target for Drake. I mean, it's a weapon. And, our tight ends are scoring in the red zone. I think we have 7 or 8 touchdowns this year from tight ends alone. And most of them are, inside the 40-yard line. And most of them are in the 20 in.
Yeah, go back and look at the game and Bryson Nesbitt across the middle. I mean, it's a complete mismatch. I mean, he's big. He's 6'5", 6'6", 230, whatever. But it's just a massive target across the middle going against a nickelback or a small linebacker or a slower linebacker. And it's an easy throw for Drake. And it's working well for the Tar Heels. John Lilly, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, you don't hear about him much. He's very kind of behind the scenes. He's not on Twitter, not on Instagram. We get to talk to him maybe once a year. I'm sure a lot of fans don't even really know who he is at all. I think he's in the booth with Longo. So you got Longo and Lilly up there, so you don't see him on the sideline. So John Lilly was brought in after my guy Tim Brewster. Yeah. We love Tim Brewster here. Yeah, I'm good friends with his son. but he's been a great hire, and he's a kind of a football lifer. So John Lilly, shout out to him as well. All right, that's the tight ends there. On defense, is there anything else you want to talk about on defense? I want to talk about the dime package. Just get your thoughts on that, and we can kind of evolve from there. It's very clear when it's 3rd and long, 4th and long, they bring in this dime package, and it's a mixture of Jacoby Cowan, the Ohio State transfer, who we don't see that much. They keep Noah Taylor or Chris Collins on the field. They bump Kamen Rucker, who's kind of that outside defensive end. They bump him inside as an undersized kind of rush defensive tackle, and they bring in I'm missing someone they bring in on the edge there. Oh, Malachi Hamrick, a really undersized jack, true freshman. They take out Power Eccles. They bring in Will Hardy, who's a true freshman, 6'2", kind of nickelback safety. And they keep in, I think, Storm and Tony Grimes, and then they keep on both safeties. What's the dime package like when it comes in? Like, what's the purpose of it? Why is UNC using that personnel, and go from there?
So there's really 2 or 3 reasons why they're using it, and this is in no specific order of why they're doing it. Number one, it's to get banked reps for younger players. So Will Hardy comes in the game. Say he plays 5 to 8 snaps in the dime package year, and then you multiply that by 12 to 14 game season, and that's a decent chunk of plays that'll have for experience for years to come. Same thing with Malachi Hamrick, and then Cowan. You're getting these young guys on the field, and you're not having the whole defensive package on display for them. They have to memorize 2 or 3 calls, and they can execute them very well and very fast. So that's the first thing, is we're getting young guys on the field and putting them in position to succeed. The second thing is, when it's third and longer, most of the offenses are throwing the ball, and they usually have speed personnel in the game. So we're matching personnel. Our linebackers are very good players, and they can cover, but secondary, that's what they're paid to do, is to cover. And I can say paid to do now because it's legal, I guess. So you bring in an extra DB, and he's able to use his strengths and cover the offense. And then the other thing, if you look at the D line, Malachi Hamrick, he hasn't developed enough in the weight room yet, but he's a great pass rusher. He's got some raw ability that he can just use his speed and his flexibility to win at the pass rush. So that's the first thing, is you're allowing young guys to play, and you're putting them in position to succeed. So and if you look across the country, everyone's doing it, because you're playing multiple guys, you're putting guys in position to succeed, and it's just good for team morale when more guys are playing.
Yeah, I guess what I would push back on is, you're playing Jacoby Cowan and Malachi Hamrick. You're like, why are you not playing your best guys on those passing downs? Like, why not play a Miles Murphy, Jahvaree Ritzie, and then and obviously Noah Taylor and Chris Collins? Like, why, if they're coming in on like a really important down, like 3rd and 10 or 4th and 10, like why are you not playing your best guys that aren't getting all those reps?
I think the coaches think that these are the guys that can succeed in this scenario. And I think the other thing is, we hear all the time about a young player that doesn't get any reps, and all the fans are complaining, well, why isn't he getting reps? Well, this is their time to get reps, and this is the time for some of the older guys, Noah Taylor, Miles Murphy, who play 70% of the game to take a playoff. If it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, and they just played a 8-play series, then let them rest this play, and we have enough faith in our young guys to get us off the field. Especially when it's not it's not a crucial 3rd and 4. I think that's different. I think 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, when we're able to play some more zone coverage, that's the majority of the time when we're bringing in that dime package. Is Will Hardy. He's not really matching anyone man to man. He has before, but majority of the time it's like a spot drop zone. We're taking away all the deep routes and making the offense throw the underneath check down, and we're rallying up to the ball and tackling it, and then we get off the field because it's 4th and 4.
Yeah, it makes sense to bring in pass rushing specialists who are fresh, and you bring a fresh guy like Malachi Hamrick and Cowan in who haven't played much, especially third, fourth quarter, there's still only a couple snaps in. They can give 100% full effort. And look, Will Hardy, I mean, he had a nice, good square up tackle, I believe, on one of those dime package plays, which is good to see. So the rep thing I didn't really think about. It makes tons of sense. You're kind of almost like stealing reps for these young guys. So maybe
Absolutely.
when time comes, 8th, 9th, 10th game of the season, they can kind of be there as a pure backup and come in for an injured player. And then next year, they're good to go for more of a starting role. Okay, players of the game. Jeff, as we kind of wrap up here, calling the shots, Blue Shark Vodka here on a kind of a 60-degree as fall weather comes into Chapel Hill. It's kind of nice. Kind of the vibes are kind of chill here after a win by the Tar Heels. Okay, players of the game, Jeff, on offense for you.
I could give it to Drake every game, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to Josh Downs. Welcome back, Josh. I know he played versus Notre Dame, but I think he's finally, reaching that close to 100% mark. His catch on 4th and 7, the second drive of the game, that was a momentum changer in the game. Instead of us turning the ball over on downs, right around midfield, we go ahead and Josh makes a huge play, and then we go down and score. He has over 100 yards. Josh Downs, best receiver in the ACC.
And you're saying second play of the game? You mean second play of the second half?
No, I'm talking about the second drive of the game.
Okay.
When we had it was 4th and 7 around midfield, and we throw it to Josh Downs. He comes up and he catches one on their sideline, and we go down and score.
Yeah.
If my memory is correct, I don't know. I could have.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm not sure if that was the second. It might have been second drive, but I know exactly the play you're talking about. I mean, Drake just kind of threw it up. He was under pressure, kind of threw up, and Josh just made the athletic play there. 8 catches, 120 yards. Yeah, kind of your classic Josh Downs box score there without a touchdown, though. I want to mention this. Antoine Green's back. Your thoughts on kind of what he brings to the offense? I think he's just another weapon. We saw against Notre Dame, complete deep threat, but he's very much incorporated now into the passing game.
Yeah, he's a bigger body that can run, and he's developed over the years. He's finally gotten his strength up. And look, you can't teach size and speed. Especially with bigger cornerbacks, he's not a mismatch per se, but he's a threat because of his speed and his size, and you can never replicate that. So he's done a great job for us.
Yeah, scores a touchdown, 4 catches, 59 yards, almost had another one on a diving play. I mean, he is a legit deep threat. Good to see him back. What a recovery. He came in right around the 6-7 week mark. So good genes there to get back from whatever the injury was there. And then I'm going to go we got to talk about Drake May. I'll go my player of the game, Drake May. Stats here, 26 for 36, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, and a quarterback rating of 184.4 on the ground. We've already talked about it. 13 rushing yards, 13 rushing attempts, 73 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Man, he is doing it all. He looks special. I mean, his stats right now are Heisman level stats. I think, of course, you have to be on a really, really good team. We'll see what happens there. But you look, if UNC can go 5-1, 6-1, and Drake keeps putting up these stats, I mean, he'll be in the conversation for one of the best quarterbacks in the nation in terms of stats. Your thoughts on what you saw from him against Virginia Tech, and just obviously the praise you're going to give him for what he's been so far for the Tar Heels?
Yeah, I mean, I've complimented the hell out of him in every prior episode. I think he did look a little not shaky to begin the game, but he wasn't, on point exactly. And maybe that was a little bit to do with the weather, getting used to the ball. He wasn't great on his first couple throws, but the thing that always helps Drake is his ability to navigate the pocket, scramble, and pick up yards with his legs. I think he had 2 rushing first downs in the first drive. So that kind of gets his momentum going. Whether he missed maybe his first 3 or 4 throws, but he's able to pick up first downs with his legs, and then now the ball starts rolling, and obviously you see what day he finishes up with, over 300 yards, 3+ touchdowns. So,
what did you think about the leaping jump and then getting hit and being down for a couple minutes?
Look, he's a competitor, and you'll hear him say it in his interviews, and him competing with his brothers growing up, and he was essentially playing backyard football against Luke right there. But we do have to teach him how to slide. That was one of Sam's issues, is he was taking shots, and we want to prolong Drake's career. He's going to play for a long time. We just need to teach him to slide because he's our best player, and we got to protect him.
Yeah, that's a situation where just get out of bounds, live to play another day. I mean, he wanted to score. He said, "I wanted to score. I didn't think I was going to score," but he still jumped. I think he jumped over Dax Holyfield and got nailed in the stomach by the defensive back for the Hokies. It's kind of scary there. He was down, but the camera was like right on him. So you saw all his facial expressions there, but I think the wind was just knocked out of him there. Drake May, another big game as a stats coop rolling in. All right, Jeff, your defensive player of the game.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cedric Gray. I think that interception was a huge turning point in the game as well. He gets an interception. We score the next play, I think, to go up 21-3. He's leading the ACC in interceptions and tackles. So I can't say enough good things about Ced.
Yeah, he's a big body out there. When he dropped, it's kind of a very similar play against Appalachian State. He kind of went in for the play action pass and dropped and backed up, kind of confused the quarterback, was able to grab the pass. He's got good hands. I think he played wide receiver in high school, and that shows. And then when he gets running, he's become a leader. So, he wasn't a big recruit, and I'm just very impressed with how he's developed physically and as a defender, and he's been spectacular for UNC so far. I was kind of looking through the numbers here. I'm going to give mine to Kamen Rucker. Didn't come up in the stat sheet here. I don't think he registered a tackle, if I am looking at this right. But it seems like Rutgers, he puts pressure on the opposing quarterback, and he was there on the interception. He was putting pressure on Grant Wells. It seems like he always gets good push. He's become a leader for UNC. So Kamen Rucker, I don't think he gets as many flowers as the kids say, but he's undersized. But man, he's tough. He's one of UNC's best pass rushers. So Kamen Rucker is my player of the game on the defensive side of the ball. All right, Jeff, we're gonna wrap up here with a little closing segment here. State of the season. UNC's now 4-1. Look, they're 2 wins away from bowl eligibility. They got their first ACC win over a pretty bad Virginia Tech team. So I'm not sure how much we can really put into that win. I don't think it's a game where you're hugely celebrating, because I think Virginia Tech's going to end up being very, very bad. And I don't think the defense, even if it's a confidence builder, I don't think the defense can step away thinking, as a fan, thinking, the defense is 100% fixed. But ahead on the schedule is Miami in Florida on Saturday, and then Duke back in North Carolina. It's at Durham. So 2 away games back to back, even though Duke, is a 15-minute bus ride, and it'll be packed with Carolina fans. Then the bye week, and then Pitt. Your kind of state of the season right now for UNC, sitting at 4-1.
The first thing, I kind of want to disagree with you on, we aren't going to celebrate this Virginia Tech win as much. We celebrate every win in college football. You see FBS teams losing to FCS teams or Group of 5 schools. Look, this is an ACC coastal opponent. We're 1-0 in the ACC. We're going to celebrate the hell out of this win.
My more point is, I don't think the defense is. You don't know if the defense is fixed yet. I'm not running around saying, man, the defense is awesome now. That part I'm not moving on. But yeah, I mean, wins are hard to come by. You take it.
Yeah, so we'll take that. But the state of the season, I mean, this is what I predicted going into the season. We're going to be 4-1, going to Miami on the road. As much as UNC fans, wanted to beat Notre Dame, we didn't get it done. But all of our goals are still ahead of us. Our goals going into the season, obviously, were to win the Coastal, win the ACC championship, and then compete at a big-time bowl game. So all that is still in front of us. And previewing Miami a little bit, I don't think anyone in the country expected them to be 2-2 going into this game. Maybe 3-1 at worst, losing to Texas A&M, but 2-2 losing to a Middle Tennessee team at home. I mean, that's pretty shocking in my opinion. And they're coming off a bye week. I know their head coach he's a tough ass, so he's going to be on them all the last 2 weeks, especially after that loss. I predicted before the season that we were going to lose to Miami because I guess I fall in the media now where, Miami gets all the preseason hype, but then when the season comes around, they don't actually live up to the standard. But I'm going to take back what I said preseason, and I'm going to get off the Miami hype train. And I think this is a game that UNC will go down and beat Miami in Coral Gables, or not Coral Gables, Palm Gardens, or whatever it is.
I think it's Miami Gardens. So a couple of interesting dynamics here. Obviously, Miami has the bye week, so they've had 2 weeks to get reset after the Middle Tennessee loss, and then kind of move on quickly and have more time to prepare for UNC. Sit back, relax, watch UNC beat Virginia Tech. They benched Tyler Van Dyke in the Middle Tennessee State game, but I just did a little internet research. It seems like he's still the quarterback there. It must have been just kind of a situation where they were losing. It didn't look pretty. Let's take him out. So Tyler Van Dyke, who got so much hype in the preseason, they're sticking with him. I think that's an interesting storyline to kind of watch because he hasn't been good yet. And I watched a little bit of Miami game. I'm not sure which one it was, but their wide receivers are not good. There are tons of drops. So there's just it always seems like it's a mess down there. They have this great recruiting base, but they've struggled in the last, 8 or 10 seasons. And Mac Brown has had Miami's number. I don't think he's lost to the Hurricanes since he's been back. I mean, that big game in 2019.
3-0 versus the Canes.
Yeah, the big game in 2019 with the Daz Newsome catch in the end zone. And
2020, Mike and Javante ran wild. And then last year, Cedric Gray has an interception as Miami's driving to close the game. So,
yeah, and obviously I think that 2020 game, that was kind of peak. I was like, all right, here we go. This team is rocking and rolling. That was an awesome game down. I think UNC put up 60 points or something. So, huge game. A great chance for a road win. I think it sets up nicely for UNC, and it'll be exciting to watch UNC take on Miami. But looking forward, anything else about where they stand right now? I mean, UNC seems like they're in a pretty good space if UNC's defense can keep improving.
Yeah, I'm going to revert to my coach speak right now, and we got to handle Miami in front of us. But looking forward, Duke obviously they're more talented than people gave them credit preseason. They're kind of using the Duke culture, and they found a decent quarterback. When Duke is successful, they have a good quarterback. The Boone kid in the early, mid to 2010s, and then they go to Daniel Jones. I think that's the only way Duke can be successful, when they find a decent quarterback. And they're playing pretty good defense with Elko, at the helm. But I honestly haven't watched them enough. I've just seen box scores, really. But the key thing about Miami, their best receiver, the little slot, is out again versus us. This is a game. I think we're underdogs coming into the game, but I think we should get it done. We like you said, we play well versus Miami. I think we match up well. I think we can create some havoc down in Miami.
What is this Duke football culture you speak of?
They're very smart. They play penalty-free football. They do what they do well, and I guess that's a Duke football culture.
Yeah. I'm very surprised. Did he play there?
Yeah,
that's right.
Unfortunately,
I'm very surprised they're pretty decent. I mean, they beat Virginia easily. So Duke is kind of an interesting storyline in the ACC Coastal under Mike Elko. I mean, it could be UNC could be 5-1 in Durham, and so could Duke. I think Duke plays Georgia Tech this weekend as well. Georgia Tech coming off a big win off of Pitt. All right, Jeff, let's get out of here. Anything else you want to talk about? You good?
That's all I got.
Hey, I got one thing for you. Mitch Trubisky, your boy, got, I guess, benched is one way to say it, for his name escapes me. The Pitt QB.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett. Your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously you have a very different and unique perspective on the situation there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think, anytime you draft a quarterback in the first round, that quarterback is expected to play at some point throughout the year. And I think winning cures all in football. And, Pittsburgh was 1-2 going into that game. And, they were down 10-6 at halftime. I didn't see any of the game. I don't know how Mitch looked, but I will tell you this. Mitch is not the sole reason why they weren't successful. But boil it down to it, he's the quarterback, so they tend to get the majority of the blame. And the most popular person in an NFL franchise from the fan base's perspective is the backup quarterback. Because, if the starting quarterback is quote unquote struggling or the team isn't winning, they always think the guy behind them is going to do a better job. So, Kenny Pickett comes in and throws 3 interceptions. I get it. One was, the last second Hail Mary. But in my opinion, he's not an upgrade over Mitch. Mitch has been in the league for 5 years. He has a winning record. Mike Tomlin is a Hall of Fame coach. And for the first 4 weeks, if he didn't think that Pickett was better, he wouldn't put his job on the line to play, a crowd favorite. So, I feel for Mitch. He knows it's part of the industry and what comes with being a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's going to get critiqued when they lose. But, Mitch is a damn good player, and, I hate it for him, but we'll see what they do going forward.
Yeah, Steelers fall 24-20 versus the Jets. Yeah, I mean, Pickett threw, 2 interceptions in the last one, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns, but not much through the air there. I'll be interested to see what happens there. And one thing I think you'll agree with me, I mean, Mitch will be a good teammate and a great person in that locker room, regardless of what happens moving forward.
Yeah,
All right, man.
He didn't get voted captain of the team for not being a great teammate, great leader. So I think that says a lot about him. He got signed in March and was voted a captain in August. So look, he's a stud. Love you, Mitch.
There you go. Calling the Shots, presented by Blue Shark Vodka. UNC defeats Virginia Tech 41-10. They look ahead to Miami on Saturday, 4 p.m. in Miami Gardens on ESPN2. Jeff, appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you all next time.
Peace.